Genesis 14 is the first time war is mentioned in the Bible. Abram will join in a war between kings, and surprisingly, he wins. But the author of Genesis wants to draw our attention to why Abram wins. At the beginning, we are introduced to the opponents. We can almost imagine it as like a boxing match or an Olympic competition, as the broadcast highlights them. Verses 1 through 12 tell us who Abram's opponents are. In this corner, you have the kings of the East coming forward. The kings of the East, they have 4 armies, ancestors of empires. They are destroyers of giants. They are undefeated in battle. This group ends up attacking the region where Lot and Abram's nephew lives, and it takes Lot and his family, which triggers Abram to get involved. In the middle of the story, verses 13 through 14 remind us who Abram is. So in this corner, we have Abram, a man who has 318 soldiers. He has no known experience in battle. He has no land. Oh, and also he's over 75 years old. And he wins? What an upset of the century, right? And so I think if you stop at verse 16, it makes you think that Abram is victorious because of his military skill. But the story is clearly saying that this is a strange victory. The story draws our attention to God behind the scenes. In verses 17 through 24, Abram meets a man who is both king and priest. His name is Melchizedek. In this encounter, Abram hears these words, "Blessed be Abram, to the highest God, who created heaven and earth, and blessed be the highest God, who delivered your enemies into your hand." This word for deliverance means to hand something over, as in having control of it. God, the Most High, above all gods and kings, was in control all along, handing over 4 very powerful kings to a displaced man with 318 soldiers. This is not only clear to Melchizedek, but it's also clear to Abram, who then gives 10% of his new possessions to this priest king of the Lord. Abram's victory drives him to worship. Not worship through music, but worship through sacrificial giving. For Christians who are people of the Most High God, we recognize that we are too in a war in which we fight not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil and sin. Just as Abram had the Most High God in his corner, we too have the God above all things in ours. And thus, when we experience victory in life, we showcase it through our worship. This is often accompanied with music, and thus worship is truly an act of war. But worship is also an act of giving. For those who have a new beginning in Jesus, we don't approach giving of our time or of our resources or our money as a begrudging rule to keep. No, we see it as an act of war and worship. That just like Abram tithed after being delivered by God, we similarly give to celebrate our dependence on God. We have been saved, delivered, even when it seems like all is lost. And yet we worship through song and sacrifice because we know who is in our corner. God, the maker of heaven and earth. God, the Most High.